Hi, I'm Morgan Spector. I play George Russell on the Gilded Age, and we're breaking down a scene from season two where George finally gets what's coming to him.
Nothing happened. Except,
Yeah, I mean,
Except what?
acting with Carrie Coon, acting opposite Carrie, is truly one of the great privileges of my life.
she came into my room one night. At first, I thought it was you, but the lamp revealed that I was wrong.
See, I feel like if it was the lamp, you should know that it's your wife. I've always thought that was sort of silly, but I think Julian's having a good time at George's expense.
Was it just your room or your bed?
My bed.
Your bed. She's so formidable. It's very impressive. She's sort of terrifying, which is nice. It's nice to have to sort of act in the face of that hurricane force wind.
Was she clothed? Answer me!
No. But I would never betray you.
You already have!
Nothing happened.
Yeah, and the problem here is that she starts to break. All I want to do is just give her a hug.
As soon as I knew it wasn't you, I got out of bed.
Did she?
Not immediately, so I ordered her to leave.
But you never told me.
Because there was nothing to tell.
It seems to me there was a great deal to tell.
She didn't matter to me in the least.
Yeah, she just, when I think Carrie Coon just has one of these sort of has this quality about her that you're just rooting for her. You're just on her side, no matter what kind of character she's playing. And she has the capacity that very few actors have to sort of really just go to pieces. And when you're doing that, and when you're in a scene with somebody and they do that, and it's your fault, your character's fault, it's awful. It was a difficult scene to play for that reason, because yeah, she just brings so much real emotion to the room. I guess I think the relationship between Bertha and George is so sort of core to me, for what makes the show like enjoyable to do, and it's sort of what's their love for each other is what makes them at all redeemable or interesting, because otherwise they're sort of like these clawing, ambitious strivers with far too much money. But if they have this truly egalitarian relationship, and part of that I think is openness and candor, and I do think George had, to some extent, noble reasons for not telling Bertha about Turner. I love the scene. I love that it's not George doesn't really apologize, not because I think it would have been sort of anachronistic if he was too immediately understanding of why she's upset. I just think it's a very well written scene, very beautifully played by Carrie. Not really any that I recall. I mean, we rehearsed, we ran through it a few times. There was before we shot it, there was a real there's a sense of how to calibrate it and how to calibrate her outrage and George's response. And again, I was sort of trying, as a person in 2024, I think if this was a situation I was in with my real life partner, I would be abject. I would just be like, I'm so sorry, I messed up, I made a mistake. Like there would be a lot more transparent communication. I think I was wrong. So it was sort of sense of, despite wanting to do that emotionally in the scene, there's a sense of it was about pulling that back and sort of letting George be a little bit more of the 19th century patriarch, despite the fact that they do have this modern relationship. I guess there's the moment of why George didn't tell her. I mean, I think that's the most crucial, and his answer is so weak. I mean, there's nothing to tell, and there's obviously something to tell. But it's these, I just love how George is forced to sort of slow drip these increasingly horrifying details. She came into his bed. she was naked, he didn't tell her, right? Like these are the sort of escalating beats of the scene that ultimately just drive her out of the room. There's nothing more she can do or say. It's too horrifying. So yeah, I think those are the sort of crucial. You know, George doesn't just come out with it. He doesn't just admit everything right away. He doesn't give her and he doesn't soften it. He doesn't, he tells her, he's completely honest with her in the, I think it's to his credit. But yeah, those are the sort of crucial beats as it unfolds. George definitely feels, you know, he was tempted. Somebody tried to seduce him. He declined. You know, he did the right thing. And so in a certain way, I think he feels like he should be getting some credit for that. But of course, she isn't giving him any credit, because the thing that hurts her is that he didn't give her the information. She wasn't able to make the decision for herself. So he sort of, you know, whether or not to keep Turner what to do about the situation, he by allowing Turner to have information about Bertha that Bertha didn't have, he sort of betrayed his intimacy with Bertha. He doesn't understand it because he thinks he made an upright decision. So yeah, it's complicated. I don't think it's totally clear what would have been. I mean, I think in retrospect, it obviously would have hurt Bertha less if he had told her about Turner, but it's also true that that would have thrown her plans into disarray at that particular time. So there's a case in that direction. I think he is used to having these sort of fundamental relationships really undergird his whole life. And they do all become more turbulent over the course of the second season. I think the main challenge is the union, is the impending strike, and the possibility that his mills will be shut down. I think he's used to being able to just exert his power over almost any situation and resolve it relatively quickly. He's a quick thinker. He's a good strategic thinker, and so often he's ahead of the game. And I think with the union, there just isn't a great solution. And George's ultimate willingness, or to sort of deal diplomatically and transactionally with difficulty, is, when he has leverage, he applies it, and he applies it brutally and decisively. When he doesn't have leverage, I think he recognizes that, and so he navigates, however, to the best of his ability. And with his relationship with his right-hand man, Patrick, I think Clay is just much more willing to almost be violent, to be brutal. And so, and that's not George's style. And so that relationship, I think we begin to see cracks in it. We begin to see the fissures between the two of them. And I think George and Bertha find their way back together over the Turner rupture. But ultimately, at the end of the season, there's a real betrayal from Bertha, actually, in that she shows her willingness to really defy George on the terms of Gladys's marriage. Her marriage. So yes, I think George finds himself quite isolated at the end of the second season in a certain way. But I don't know. I think George is he's a survivor. I think the solitude of his kind of power is sort of absolute when it comes down to it. You're the decision maker, and I think even when his relationship with Bertha is at its best in the domain of business, that's still true. So I think there's a certain familiarity to that, as much as I do see trouble on the horizon. He's a lot of fun. He's like a sports car. Like there's a lot. He gets put in situations like where he's going to go around with all the money in the world and buy out the Czar in the first season. I mean, that's just a fun ride. That's a great situation to be put in as an actor. But he also, I think the other thing I like about him, and this is, I guess, maybe a weird thing to say about a 19th century billionaires. That I feel like I'm able to bring a lot of my actual self to this person, especially around father, his like love for his family, and that's that has been something over the course of my actually really. I mean, I had a child in 2018, and we started shooting this in 2020. So over the course of this show, I've gotten sort of deeper into fatherhood. And there's something, I think that George's love for his family, and particularly his daughter, is really core to who he is and what really drives him. And so there's something about that has just dovetailed nicely for me. I like that too. And I like that it isn't necessarily, they're great scene. There's that great scene in The Age of Innocence with like where Daniel Day-Lewis is like removing his Michelle Pfeiffer's glove, if I'm remembering this correctly, and you're just like, it's just it's like the hottest thing you've ever seen. But George and Bertha have a real kind of like earthy, frank sensuality with each other, and I think it is refreshing, and it's private, and it's something that is sort of it feels like something that pushes against the mores of the age, and yeah, I love it. I think it feels very grounded and real, and part of what makes these two characters unique.